Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Destiny video. Now in today's video I want to talk about the most recent hotfix that went live today on Tuesday the 14th alongside the usual weekly update. And while I'm on the topic of weekly updates, I'll also tell you what the new Heroic and the new Nightfall are with the associated modifiers. But I'll save that at the end. The thing I want to focus on first is the new hotfix. Now, also, just before I get started, if you're wondering why I'm invading the top corner of your video, I just thought I'd mix things up, throw myself in and talk to you guys direct for a change. So yeah, when I'm sort of doing one of these kind of videos where I give you a little update, then I figured, I might as well kind of talk to you. But when I do my kind of conventional information videos, then don't worry, I won't invade the corner of your video. Anyway, moving out of the way, let's get to the update. So, Bungie have been saying for a little while that they are obviously going to patch various different weapons, and people have been saying for a while that the auto rifles are overpowered in PvP, and yes, I'll admit they are, well, at least kind of they are the go-to weapon. I mean, that's why back in the beta, back in the alpha, I used to use the scout rifle in PvP, but then when I used to lose most of my gun battles, I thought, you know what, if you can't beat them, you might as well join them, so the auto rifle has since been my go-to weapon. Yes, I appreciate that may well seem like the lame way out, joining the kind of masses, but at the end of the day, if it works, then, yeah, it is what it is. But the hotfix has dropped today, and they have gone lengths to try and balance out some of the weapons. So, first up, auto rifles. The base damage has been reduced by 2%, which may not sound like a massive number, but when calculated correctly with all of the kind of crazy weapon balancing math, it does mean that the overall damage output from an auto rifle is not quite so high per bullet. They also reduced the precision multiplier for auto rifles from 1.5 to 1.25, and also reduced the stability by 4%, now putting it at 17%. Now yes, I appreciate that's just a mass load of numbers that may not make a lot of sense and it doesn't really paint a great accurate picture, but read it like this. The idea being that they then won't be quite as effective at range, because some people have still reported that the auto rifles, despite the fact that they're auto firing weapons, are also pretty good at range. So this should hopefully balance that out, and obviously reducing the damage multiplier also will help with that. So that's the nerf for auto rifles. Then moving on to shotguns. Oh yes, shotguns are also getting a nerf. Shotguns have, for a while, been a bit of a pain in the backside in the Crucible, because they have got pretty long range for a shotgun and also relatively good damage output. I mean, a shotgun is supposed to have good damage output when close, but not from the range they were shooting at. So, shotguns have had their base damage reduced and their maximum fall-off reduced by 20%. That is quite a substantial number. Again, even though the numbers don't necessarily paint a picture, that is still quite a substantial drop. And also there were some tweaks to some existing perks that come on certain different shotguns. For example, the shot package perk has now been given a wider cone, or there are some changes to some other perks as well. Now with all of these, if you do want to read the in-depth kind of breakdown of all the hotfix things, then you can go to Bungie's website, which I will leave a link to in the description box down below if you want to check out the full list, but I'm going to kind of cover the sort of the top level of it. Now moving on to scout rifles. Now yes, scout rifles are about to get some love. It has been said for a while, Bungie have acknowledged that scout rifles are not quite as powerful. They were underpowered, and obviously that's why people kind of made the transition and switched to auto rifles. So they've now made an effort to improve that. And if it does really make an improvement, I may actually make a return to scout rifles in PvP, but we'll have to wait and see about that. Either way, the base damage on scout rifles has now been increased by 6%. They've also improved the target acquisition, and they have tuned the recoil slightly. So again, these should be a lot more viable in PvP. So if, like me, you used to use a scout rifle and then you kind of switched, then maybe go back, give them a shot, see how you find them. Let me know. If you're kind of feeling the difference with the scout rifle, then definitely let me know. Hand cannons got a small buff where their in-air accuracy has now been increased, but other than that, hand cannons have largely remained the same. And then there were some general fixes put in place with regards to weapon swapping. Now, let's move on to exotic weapons. Now, Bungie have said for a while that exotic weapons are supposed to look and feel awesome. Now, yes, some of them do look flipping awesome, but they don't quite feel as overpowered as they should. Or, I'm not necessarily saying overpowered, but they should at least feel epic. So, Bungie did admit that some of them kind of felt a little bit lackluster, and they have kind of gone lengths to improve that. That being said, they have also nerfed a couple as well. And unfortunately, this hotfix only focuses on the nerfs. They may well in the future kind of work slightly harder to kind of improve the, the whole kind of exotic plethora of weapons, but for the time being that's obviously going to be a sort of, more in-depth change, and there's going to be a lot of balancing, a lot of tweaking and whatnot, so that's probably going to come in the future bigger update. But for the time being, there are a couple of nerfs that are going to affect some of you, especially if you're rocking that new Vex Mythoclast. Now, if none of you have seen the Vex Mythoclast in action, then go over to YouTube and check it out, because that is a beast of a weapon. First time someone got that one, they were into Crucible and they were destroying people. It is a fusion rifle that acts as a primary weapon. It fires ridiculously fast and will destroy people in a matter of seconds. So, that is the weapon you get for defeating Atheon in the raid on hard mode. Now I myself have been working through hard mode trying to get this recently, haven't quite got a drop for it yet, so unfortunately by the time I get it, I will have the nerfed version. I won't quite get a chance to experience it in all of its glory, but this is what you need to know. The Vex Mythoclast has had its base damage reduced by a whopping 34%. So those initial damage outputs, those kind of crazy videos where you saw people just blitzing through people, chances are that's probably not going to happen quite so much. However, it's not all bad. They have increased the precision damage multiplier from 1.25 to 1.5. So it's kind of like a little kind of nerf and buff, but I'm pretty sure the nerf outweighs the buff. Either way, that is your Vex Mythoclast right now. Then, the next weapon to get a nerf was the Pocket Infinity. Now, this weapon is a fusion rifle that you get through an exotic bounty, and what they've done to this one is, there is a perk in the upgrade tree which is called Enhanced Battery Pack, which gives you a larger ammo clip. They've now replaced that with a speed reload perk, so you'll now reload faster as opposed to having more ammo, which may not directly affect the performance of the weapon. However, given that the cool thing about the Pocket Infinity is that it fires ridiculously fast, it will blitz through ammo, so if you don't have that extended magazine, then chances are you're going to run out that much sooner. So, that's weapons, that's all the kind of nerfs and buffs and all the kind of different balancing they've put in place. There are a couple of extra sort of small things, but as I said, they're not really worth mentioning here for the time being. But if you do want to see them, as I said, I will put a link to the Bungie update notes in the description box down below, so you can go and check those ones out. But let's move on now to events. There are a couple of other things they've been doing. The first one focuses on strikes, and the second one focuses on the raid. Now, strikes, just a small one. They basically made it that if you get any engrams at the end of a kind of strike mission as a reward, then they will appear in your post-game reward screen. Whereas up until now, if you got one as a drop from a boss, or like you were randomly awarded one, where at the bottom of the screen it'll say you got a legendary engram, that would never normally show up in the post-reward screen, so you might think, oh, I didn't actually get anything. So now, if you get an engram at the end, that will show up in your post-reward screen, and that is for strike missions. However, let's move on to the raid. Now, this is the big one. Currently, the only focus for this hotfix is on the Templar battle, so they have done no changes, supposedly, to the Atheon fight. So those of you that are still pushing off the edge, supposedly that still works, and that remains unchanged, and all those kind of glitches where you go through the portal and sometimes get pushed back, or, the whole kind of not taking you to a post-game results screen, all that kind of stuff with Atheon still remains. The focus this time was on the Templar. Now, for those of you that haven't done the raid, let me just explain something really quickly. The Templar is broken down into 3 phases. First phase, you kind of have to defend some pillars in a sort of tower defense style. Second phase, you need to kind of play sort of hide and seek and find these oracles. And the third phase is when you actually fight the boss. Now, when you fight the boss, the mechanics revolve around one member of your team holding a relic. They then fire super from this relic to take down the boss's shield, and you then issue as much damage as possible. Now, if you do this on the ground, there are lots and lots of enemies that spawn, so not only do you need to manage the enemies, but you also need to issue damage to the boss and try and stay alive, and it can get a bit hectic. So what people have been doing to get around this is that there are platforms located sort of off the main stage around the arena, and you can get to them with sort of like double or triple jump. People have been standing there, and that way nothing on the ground can get to them, and they just sit up there, shoot at the boss, and that way they can kind of avoid most of the damage. You then just need to avoid sort of incoming missiles from the boss himself, but aside from that, there's not really much else that will present any danger. So what they've done is that they've added kill volume to these sniper platforms. Now, I haven't actually had a chance to do the raid just yet. The reset's only happened and I've only just got back from work, so I'm going to do that tonight. So I'll feedback to you slightly more later on, but the idea is that, they kind of put something in place so that way you can't sit up there for extended periods of time, which should therefore stop people from going up there. Now, whether they've applied this to every single platform will remain to be seen, and as I said, when I go in the raid tonight, I will let you know, but for the time being, they have put measures in place to try and stop people doing that. I think Bungie really do want you down on the ground doing that fight, and to be honest, in some ways it does make sense. I mean, the idea of being on the ground with the fight is that you can fight the Templar in the proper way. What you're supposed to do is when he wants to teleport, he'll have a ring put down, and if you jump in that ring, you stop him teleporting, which therefore in turn means you can defeat him faster. So, I can appreciate why Bungie want to push you back down on the ground, but still, either way, we'll have to see how that still remains. Anyway, that aside, the other thing they put in place is that if you have a relic holder right now, or kind of pre-hotfix, if he fell off the arena, or he kind of dropped it somewhere, and it fell down, then it would never respawn. So for example, if your relic holder died and fell off, then your entire team would wipe and you'd have to start again. So now, if the relic holder falls off, the relic will respawn at the centre. And that's it for the changes to activities and raids. And lastly, the only other thing they did is the most recent loot cave that everyone's found. You remember the famed loot cave that Bungie shut down? Then people found a new one in the rocket yard where you can kind of shoot into this sort of, wall, this kind of sort of room where these fallen come out. They have now nerfed that one as well. So again, the next loot cave has been shut down and closed for business. So people are obviously going to have to go and find another one or find other ways to do it. And that's pretty much it. That is pretty much everything in the hotfix. As I said, if you do want to see anything more or you want to read it all in detail or read it for yourself, then again, you can access it by clicking on the link in the description box down below. Now, just before I bring this video to a close, I did say that I want to touch briefly on the weekly reset. For those of you that are new to this concept, every Tuesday Destiny resets. If you completed a raid, then on Tuesday when it resets, you can then go and do that raid again and earn loot again. Any of your kind of weekly or like daily quests to get reset and all that kind of stuff like that. So Tuesday is a big day in Destiny. And this week it's a good one. Your weekly heroic and your weekly nightfall are the very first strike mission on Earth, which is the Devil's Lair. So you'll be fighting that spider tank and you'll be fighting Arekkz Prime in both those conditions. And your modifiers for the nightfall are Epic, Light Switch, Juggler and Void Burn, in addition to the usual nightfall one whereby if your team dies or wipes you go back to orbit. Epic is where heavily shielded and aggressive enemies spawn in large numbers. Light Switch is where minions of the darkness deal a lot more melee damage. Juggler is where no ammo drops for your primary weapon. And Void damage drastically increases the damage output for Void attacks, which means Arekkz Prime will do a lot more damage to you and you will therefore want to use Void weapons. And that's it. That is it for this video. That's all the stuff for the kind of like weekly sort of update, plus all the stuff for the hotfix. And as I said again, if you do want to check it out, then click that link in the description box down below. But otherwise, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, hit the like button and show your support. It does really help me out. And obviously don't forget to subscribe for daily gaming videos. Drop a comment down below, let me know what you think of these recent hotfixes. What do you think about the weapon balances? Are you glad? Are you happy? Are you one of these scout rifle users that's really going to kind of rejoice now? Or are you an auto rifle or shotgun user that feels that you've kind of now had your sort of damage tamed? But either way, let me know. Drop your thoughts and feelings in the description box down below. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.